My name is Jordan Blake. I'm 29, working as a junior architect in Spokane, Washington. Most people would describe me as calm and reliable, the kind of guy who triple checks his work, shows up 10 minutes early, and minds his own business. I don't party, I don't chase drama, and I've always believed that if you live with integrity, life will treat you fairly. I used to think that good character was its own protection. That if you were honest, loyal, and kind, people would see that and stand by you. But one lie, just one, shattered everything. Not even a lie from someone I loved or dated. It came from someone I barely even noticed. My best friend's younger sister, Tessa. And what started as a twisted rumor turned into a full-blown nightmare. My parents turned on me. My boss suspended me. I got served legal papers over something I didn't do. And by the time the truth came out, the damage was permanent. But you know what? The worst part wasn't the lie itself. It was realizing how quickly people are willing to believe the worst, even when they've known you your whole life. Before we dive into the full mess, if you're into raw, emotional stories that don't sugarcoat betrayal or human weakness, like, subscribe, and hit that bell. It helps more than you know, and you won't want to miss how deep this one cuts. Let's begin. My friend's sister lied I got her pregnant. My parents disowned me, then sued me when truth can meet. All started with something simple: trust. I was always close to my best friend Marcus and his family. His mom would cook for me. His dad gave me job advice, and Marcus's little sister Tessa, she was just that, a kid sister I'd grown up around. I heard it a dozen times: "You're basically family now, Jordan. Mi casa es su casa," and I believed it. But then, things shifted. Tessa was getting older, more confident, and suddenly flirty. At first, I laughed it off. I thought maybe I was imagining it, but then came the texts, the lingering touches, and the late-night conversations. She once told me, "You're the only guy who doesn't treat me like a joke." That line stuck with me, because I didn't want to be anything but her brother's friend. Then came the nuclear moment. Tessa sat in her parents' living room, crying, shaking, and said I'd gotten her pregnant. That I begged her to keep it a secret. My jaw dropped. Her voice cracked when she swore it was true. "He's lying," she screamed. "He begged me to keep it a secret. I can't anymore." Everything shattered. Her whole family turned on me. But worse, my parents sued me for defamation and emotional damages. It took months, humiliation, and court to get a DNA test. The results: I wasn't the father. But like I always say now, they apologized quietly, but they shamed me loudly. I never got my life back. I trusted them, all of them. Marcus had been my best friend since high school, and his family welcomed me like their own. Dinners, holidays, late-night hangouts. I was treated like blood. Tessa, his younger sister, always hovered in the background, and over time, her behavior shifted. She wasn't the kid I once teased about cartoons. Now, she'd sit too close, laugh a little too hard, and say things that made me uncomfortable. Still, I said nothing. I didn't want to cause waves in the one place that felt like home. But then came the lie, a bomb I never saw coming. Tessa told her family I got her pregnant. She cried. She screamed. And the worst part, everyone believed her. No one asked for my side. Not Marcus, not his parents, not even my own. My world collapsed overnight. I lost my job. My parents said I'd shamed them and filed a lawsuit for emotional damages. I went from being dependable to despicable in a matter of days. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. I started questioning who I even was. And months later, after all the damage was done, a DNA test proved I wasn't the father. You'd think that would fix things. It didn't. No public apology. No family reunion. Just silence. Cold, hollow silence from the same people who once said they loved me. And the part that still cuts the deepest: they shattered me with one lie, and when the truth came out, not a single person helped pick up the pieces. They broke me over a lie, and when they found out the truth, no one helped put me back together. Tessa had all the power. Not because she deserved it, but because the world handed it to her the moment she cried. I'll never forget her looking me dead in the eyes and saying, "You think you're too good for me? Maybe the court will change your mind." My voice didn't matter after that. I begged. "I never touched you. Please, don't do this." But the room was already filled with judgment. No one heard me. My own father, the man who once called me his pride, turned cold. "You've embarrassed this family. You're not my son anymore." And with those words, whatever defense I had left shattered. Every conversation became a courtroom. I wasn't just fighting her lie. I was battling the weight of silence from people I thought would stand beside me. They all spoke. With certainty. I could barely speak through the shame, but months later, one quiet test result, a simple DNA swab, did what I couldn't, prove my innocence. It took one swab of DNA to clear my name, but the damage was already done, and by then, the people who shouted the loudest had already disappeared. That's the thing about power. It doesn't care about truth, it just needs a louder voice and a willing audience. In the end, she lied and walked away untouched. I told the truth and walked away alone. This story grabs the audience by placing them in Jordan's shoes, a quiet, respectful guy who never broke a rule, never crossed a line. Viewers feel an immediate sense of sympathy because he isn't dramatic or reactive. He's the kind of person we all think deserves peace. And that's exactly what makes the betrayal hit so hard. Tessa isn't just a liar. She might be unstable, delusional, or just desperate for attention. The moral gray area isn't whether Jordan was wrong, it's whether Tessa even believed her own lie. But Jordan never fights dirty. He doesn't scream. He doesn't expose her secrets. That restraint builds forgiveness bait. The audience begins to shout for him. They want to defend him, to hug him, to punch someone for him. The shock value doesn't come from a pregnancy. It comes from watching an entire support system collapse overnight. His own parents turn on him. His boss fires him, all because a girl screamed and he stayed silent. There's no redemption arc. No courtroom drama, just a man who wakes up one day and realizes the people who swore they knew him don't even ask for proof. And then comes the injustice hook. The DNA test clears his name, but no one apologizes in public. His reputation is ruined in full volume, but his innocence is acknowledged in whispers. Audiences stay hooked not because they're curious how it ends, but because they need it to end fairly. They crave emotional justice. Even if the story never gives it, Jordan's pain feels clean and relatable. He's not perfect, he's just real, and maybe the deepest gut punch of all is this line: "I kept quiet to protect her reputation. She screamed lies and ruined mine." That's the kind of sentence that breaks people because they've lived it. Maybe not with a pregnancy, but with betrayal, with silence, with undeserved shame. This story is layered with brutal symbolism, like the family photo with Jordan's face torn out. A quiet reminder that even love can be erased by lies. The court summons pinned to the fridge by his own mother isn't just legal paper. It's betrayal in plain sight. The core themes cut deep. Trust shattered by false accusations. The fragility of reputation, and how quickly love turns conditional. It shows how people will rewrite history just to avoid discomfort, the most painful message. Sometimes, the ones closest to you choose convenience over truth. They didn't want the truth. They just wanted someone to blame. That's a universal ache we all recognize. Jordan always saw himself as the kind of man people could count on, honorable, disciplined, and quietly trustworthy. He believed staying respectful, especially around his best friend's family, was the right thing. But when the lie exploded, and no one stood by him, that identity cracked. He didn't just lose his reputation. He lost his reflection. The moment that shattered him was hearing his own mother scream, "You disgust me," like he was a stranger, not the son she raised. That broke something permanent. He began to question whether his silence, his restraint, had made him the perfect target. If he had spoken up when Tessa flirted, would it have changed anything? Or would it have only made him look guilty? Sooner, he spiraled, asking himself whether doing the right thing only made him easy to destroy. "I thought doing the right thing protected you, but all it did was make me an easy scapegoat." In that moment, Jordan's identity didn't just shift, it crumbled. What was the point of integrity in a world where lies shout louder than truth? Jordan's biggest mistake wasn't something he did, it was what he didn't do. When Tessa lied about the pregnancy, he could have immediately gone public, exposed her inconsistencies, dug up her past, and defended himself ruthlessly. But he didn't. Why? Because he still respected Marcus's family. He believed protecting their name meant something, even if it cost him everything. At the time, he told himself that silence was the higher road, that people who truly knew him would see through the lie. But they didn't, and when it all collapsed, he was left holding the weight of everyone else's cowardice. Still, Jordan never retaliated. He let her cry and scream and play the victim, while he drowned quietly in shame. Looking back, he doesn't see that silence as weakness anymore. He sees it as moral control. "I could have dragged her name through the dirt. I didn't. That's the difference between us." While Tessa weaponized emotion to ruin someone's life, Jordan held the line. His silence wasn't consent, it was restraint. And now, he wears that restraint like a scar, painful, but proof he didn't become like her. The moral lines blurred. The day his world imploded, but in his mind, he still knows who kept their hands clean and who didn't. Tessa and Jordan stand as emotional opposites, mirror reflections of instability and restraint. Tessa is impulsive, loud, and hungry for attention. Even if it means burning lives to feel important, her lie wasn't just about revenge or drama. It was a cry to be noticed, to matter. Jordan, on the other hand, is measured, quiet, respectful. He avoids conflict out of principle until the lie forces his collapse. Where Tessa offers chaos disguised as affection, Jordan's own parents offer something equally dangerous. Love that depends on how good he looks to the outside world. They didn't need proof. They didn't need truth. They only needed to preserve their image, and Jordan became the sacrifice. Tessa gave him destructive validation, a twisted kind of attention that wrecked his life. His parents, meanwhile, withheld the one thing that could have saved him: unconditional belief. In the end, both women in his life failed him, one out of recklessness, the other out of convenience. Jordan didn't need someone to scream his innocence. He just needed someone to believe it. She wanted to be seen. I just wanted to be believed. That's the tragedy. The girl who lied was heard. The man who stayed quiet was erased. Quick pause. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you. Tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from, and what time is it there right now? I read every single comment. All right, let's head back into the mess. This story's just getting darker. This story taps into raw, unspoken fears and desires shared by many. For men, it's the nightmare of being falsely accused, of losing everything because someone else's lie was louder than your truth. It speaks to that silent panic. What if doing the right thing still ruins me? For women, there's a darker curiosity. How fragile is a man's identity when his reputation is stolen? The betrayal comes not just from Tessa, but from Jordan's own family, the people who were supposed to know his heart. That cuts deeper than the lie itself. The audience sees a reflection of themselves in Jordan's restraint. How society often punishes calmness and rewards noise. Viewers feel rage, not just at Tessa, but at a world where guilt is assigned before facts. The story whispers an uncomfortable truth. People believe what's easiest, not what's right. And underneath it all, there's a secret satisfaction. Watching Jordan survive, even silently, gives audiences hope that dignity doesn't need applause. That even after your name is dragged through the mud, you can still rise, scarred but not broken. It's not just a story, it's emotional. Justice disguised as heartbreak.